videos that are going to make you question reality. That's just that.
Trump is just such a unique, like, the whole experience this year for me of first learning all this shit. I had no idea about any of this, learning about sex trafficking and stuff. And then B, what Trump is doing and Trump's moment in history. It's really making me believe in God. I'm not going to lie. Because, and I don't mean that to say as in like Trump is the savior. That's not what I mean. What I mean is that just like the unlikely nature, like these are facts. More than like 100 years ago, this occult weirdo wrote a book about this guy named Barron Trump coming to save America, right? And it was Barron Trump's Adventures in Space or whatever it is. It's a kid's book, right? And his mentor is named Don, right? So that happened, and that's a real thing, and you can get that book. And fast forward like 50 years, or less than that actually, Donald Trump's uncle, John Trump, gets a call that he needs to go and examine all of Nikola Tesla's records. You know about that? The last person to touch all of Nikola Tesla's work was Donald Trump's uncle. He was the official dude. He was at MIT, and they called him in to go and examine all of Nikola Tesla's secret shit to see are any of these like crazy space lasers, are any of these crazy technologies, what does he have here? And he went and examined it all, and officially the report came back, nope, it's all normal, nothing to see here. And then they closed the case, and all that shit got shipped out. So that's Donald Trump's uncle. That's kind of weird. And then you get Donald Trump's actual life story itself and his son Barron, and like it's just. So those are just funny tinfoil what I just talked about is like, that's just funny, weird ass tinfoil that is real shit that really did happen. And now we're here. But also there's just like Trump's like 2016 run all the way back to the White House Correspondents' Dinner where Obama like basically shat on Trump. And that's when he like just when you watch the thread that brought this like Democrat, Donald Trump, the Democrat, the beloved like golden boy of Hollywood, like the "you're fired" guy, and they brought him to this point now, even to the stealing of the 2020 election, so that we could all go through that 4 years of hell and get this version of Trump. It just feels kind of like
almost getting assassinated.
Yeah, they shot his ear off. Or even if they didn't shoot his ear off and it was all staged, even if that's what happened, that's still an unreal thing to pull off. Like kudos to whoever was able to pull that off. That's crazy.
Just nick his ear.
Yeah, just no problem. And in front of the whole world
didn't have
on
the
live
balls
TV.
to stand there and let him do it.
Yeah. So to me, it's just like the more that this year and this whole thing progresses, and it feels like we're getting some amount of cultural shift and justice and disclosure. It feels like I'm not ready to go like full on like let's go Q, like trust the plan, where we go one, we go all. Although I love Q jokes, they're so fun. But I definitely feel like there's something magical or spiritual. There's something godly about what's going on here. That just makes me really hyped.
Well, my mom told me when I was like 11 years old, we used to have Bible study with her all the time. And I remember one day we sat down, we was having Bible study, and she said, "Keep Kevin, this is a sign God's just right around the corner." I said, "What, Mama? What's the sign, Mama? I want to be ready for God." So she showed me this picture of this woman with a dick. I don't know what Mama got that. That's a true story. Oh, man. She said, when you see beautiful women walking the earth with huge erections, trust me.
She's ahead of her time. She's ahead of her time, bro.
Yeah. She showed it was a picture that was like, look.
I don't know where the hell she got that picture from. That's a beautiful woman. She had a huge cock.
They're all over the internet these days, bro. You can find that shit online.
Yeah.
I mean, you can find that shit in person now, too. Shit. Dude, I just moved out of that state.
California?
No, well, I moved out of Washington, but California, too. All that left coast stuff. It's
Oregon is really woke.
All of it. Yeah, Washington, Oregon, and California, the whole coast is so woke, and I don't really know why it is that way. I have a theory that California and New York, that I believe that the powers that be within, like the corrupt, like the organized crime powers that be within America, intentionally keep the places where all the richest people sort of like park their wealth and their homes and their families, they keep those states as controlled and fucked up as possible. Because if you're a celebrity that lives in California and you have like this horrible government, it's like you are fine because you're insulated behind all this money, but you have all this like these weird laws and all this like just it allows for all this corruption that is easier to like manipulate, play, and control those communities of influential people. And so when you look at California and you look at New York, those are two of the worst states politically speaking. And I just can't help but suspect that there's a reason for that.
It's got to be because you look at Florida, Texas, very diverse states.
Yep.
They're red. Why is those automatically all blue?
Yep. I don't think it's going to be anymore. I think California's going to fucking flip. I think Nicole Shanahan is going to take California.
Nevada just flipped red, so yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Dude, Nevada's a weird state. I don't know, like, dude.
We're right on California's doorstep and we went red.
Yep. Well, I mean, I would expect Nevada to be red because it's just like it's all freedom and gambling and deserts and guns and half the state or something isn't even officially owned by the U.S.
Right.
There's this obscure thing that came out of the ranch, the Bundy Ranch shooting.
Yeah, we got a couple
right?
brothels out here.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. And the dude from that Bundy lawsuit, like the lawyer, or whatever, he realized that the United States doesn't even own this huge portion of Nevada that includes Las Vegas.
Really?
And and so there's and I don't know all the details. You'd have to look into it more. But yeah, he filed to take the unclaimed land, and part of the defense in that court case was that you can't prosecute us for federal laws on this land because actually the U.S. government gave away this land back in like 18 something, I don't know, and you never took it back. So technically you don't even own, and I don't obviously know the details of it, but it is like, it's this whole rabbit hole about Nevada that's
so weird. Who owns it?
I mean that guy claims he does now. Let's be clear.
It's over, folks. When people are like, "Oh, we're losing the world superpower. We're falling behind from China." It's already over. They've already won. Look at this shit. They have flying cars, folks. Flying cars. Autonomous taxis. They have high-speed rail. We have the overpriced and now privatized ChatGPT, while they have DeepSeek, which is open source, was way cheaper, more cost-effective, and better. They're number 5 in best healthcare in the world. Where's the U.S.? Although we could be number 6, right behind China, if it wasn't for us paying for the Israeli regime to give all their citizens health care. I think a lot of Americans are in denial about the fact that this war is already over. The Chinese have already won. They are the new world superpower. We just haven't come to grips with it yet. I think a lot of the politicians know this, but they're lying because they know that it's going to be really hard to break the news to the American people when we've spent our whole lives being the top dog. I welcome it, actually, because I'm poor, and so are a lot of other Americans, so what the fuck do I care if China becomes the world superpower? You know what? I'm for it. At least they respect their citizens enough to let them own a house, unlike our country where we basically are divided into servant class and those we serve. And what's the U.S. doing for us, for everyday regular people? Oh, nothing. But over on Israeli television, they're talking about how the U.S. is going to assist them in a war with Iran. So we have that to look forward to.
And then we saw something shiny. And we saw two people. They were in tight black suit. And they had big eyes. And we didn't actually see their nose. It was quite small. And their mouth was quite small as well. One of them was running in slow motion up across the ship. And the other one was standing beside the ship.
Yeah, you made a drawing, huh?
Running in slow motion?
It looked like this?
No, something like that. I couldn't see the eyes or the nose or the mouth. It was just blank, like a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when they came, I thought they were crazy.
Was this the first thing you thought?
I thought they were crazy just coming to our school doing nothing. And all I saw was something like silver coming down, and I said, what must that be? And everybody's crowding it. I must go crowd too. And then I went and I started crowding, and everybody, then more people came and more. And then I said, hey, I can't see anymore. Come on, somebody, I'm short. Come on. And then I went to the front and I started seeing more of them, and then I just ran away. The day before the spaceship came, my friends and I were sitting in the playground, and one of my friends, her name Emily, she looked up into the sky and she said, oh, there's a UFO. She said, and I looked at it and she said, no, just kidding, it's an airplane. And we looked up and I thought to myself, that can't be an airplane because it was very shiny. It looked kind of like a cigarette, you know. It was a long thing and then on the end it was all shiny. And so I said, maybe it is a UFO. So we were all kind of like getting scared now. And then the day that it happened, then we started thinking, yeah, there must have been a UFO in the sky. Because my brother also saw it, but he's left the school now. Mm-hmm. It was sort of like a round shape, sort of like a plate, sort of like two plates that were sort of like on top of each other. Then there was sort of like the hole, the hatch for it, and it was sort of like in between two trees. But you couldn't see that clearly, and it was just silver all over. I didn't see any men or something like that.
You saw one UFO that's surrounded by little ones?
Yeah, one big one. One spaceship.
Yeah?
Little ones around.
Yeah, let me see. Let me see your drawing. One big one?
One big ship and then small ones surrounding it with there were lights
Yeah.
surrounding the ship.
Like Sean's, huh? This is Sean's drawing.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. And, okay, one landed, the big one landed, and the two aliens came out.
Yes.
And what happened with the little ones?
The little ones, they were just flowing around in the air. They didn't touch the ground.
And that, these made the silver lights?
Yeah. They were making different color lights, like green, red,
flash to green, then they'd go to blue,
and then purple.
Yeah, purple and red. But it was like it was going like each one to each one, but quickly.
Like they'll go there and then it'll vanish, and then it'll go there and vanish, and then vanish.
Oh, really?
But going quickly, like as if it was one ship moving. Yeah.
Candace drawing.
Come on.
Were they yellow?
No, I didn't have a silver crayon, so I did it yellow.
Yeah. So, but what happened? You came home and you told your parents?
Yes. Some of them didn't believe us. My mom didn't believe me.
Your mom didn't believe you?
My mom also didn't believe me.
Is that hard? Because if you see something and nobody believes you, what happens?
Yeah, you
feel
start
sad.
You start to you start to think as if it wasn't true. Yeah, and people say to you, no, it wasn't true, so you think it wasn't true.
Then you think that you're mad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And after that, you get all upset.
Yeah, and everyone starts teasing. And my friends over the road, when I go there and I tell them about it, they just say, oh, he believes in aliens, oh, he's stupid.
You've seen too many movies.
Yeah.
Was there nobody in your neighborhood who believed you?
My mom and dad believed me. My granny and my granddad believed me, but my uncle didn't.
Where the spaceship had landed, all the insects and ants and stuff like that were all dead, and there was a huge black mark there. And my mom said it might have just been a fire there, but I don't think there was. I think it was the alien ship.
Yeah. But, you have gone to the place, of course, and have you seen anything?
No, we weren't allowed
An
there.
evidence, I mean, that it was there?
Some other people came to the school and they went out the boundary of the playground and they went to go and see what had happened there, and they saw that the grass was burnt and all the living things had died there in that area. Him and his parents and his brother and sister all believed me. And my mother just believed me, but my dad didn't believe anything I said. Anything.
And did you describe it to them? Exactly what happened?
Yeah, and I drew it on a paper and I said, Daddy, this is what it looked like. And then he saw it well and he said, Michael, I think you're telling the truth now. And then that's all he said of it, and that's all.
Who was scared? Not all of you, huh? Who was dreaming about it since then?
Yes.
In a bad way?
Bad way.
Yeah, in a bad way? No, tell me first in a bad way. Why? You have nightmares about it?
Yes, I used to, but then after about a year I stopped dreaming about it.
Mm-hmm.
I dreamt that the same one I saw without hair, he came into my bedroom and he took me from my bed.
Did you dream that?
Yes.
Yeah?
And then I just screamed. I woke up and screamed.
And what did your mom say?
Well, she just kept on saying it was a nightmare. She didn't really believe me. I wasn't scared a bit.
No? Not at all?
Nothing. It was all fun to me. I heard this lady on TV. I think it was Jill Dark. And she said this lady got kidnapped and she had babies that were aliens.
That's what you're afraid of.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the aliens came because they're curious like us, and well, they want to learn about us and we want to learn about them. some people say that people are saying that the aliens came to warn us something's going to happen, that something bad is going to happen to the earth. Yeah. I think they came here to try and warn us that the children, because we're young, got a long time. We've got a long time till we die. To warn us that when we're older, there's something going to happen to the earth. Yeah, not to pollute. Because we're young, we can still prevent it. Yeah.
Have you ever witnessed other life forms?
It's a dangerous thing to discover your purpose. Because when you discover your purpose, you're going to become an irritation to people.
Sure.
You are going to upset people, and also, when you discover your purpose, you are going to declare your independence, because you are not going to allow other people to dictate to you and tell you what to do, because you've discovered now your purpose.
Sure.
And when you discover your purpose, food will become a stumbling block. Sleep will become a hindrance. And so all I want to encourage everybody, you know, this year I'll be 73 years old.
Sure.
And thank God, I said this very humbly, when I discovered God's purpose, I am more active now than I was about 20 years ago.
Wow.
Because purpose prolongs life. It produces quality life. Only God will decide when, where, and how. So my life's in God's hands. So I would encourage you. In fact, living long is not a sign you've done something.
Okay.
Living long doesn't impress God. Many people say, you know, I'm 100 years old, and you ask them what you've done yesterday, they can't remember.
But there's a missing element to that, which is why so many people haven't succeeded.
Well, and maybe this is it. Isn't it true? Many people using the law of attraction and try to attract a new car or more money failed. How do you explain
It is
that?
true. You know, people that were in The Secret and talked about the law of attraction, they've been on the Oprah show. They were on Larry King. And both Oprah and Larry King mentioned a lot of people bought The Secret, tried to apply the law of attraction, and unfortunately miserably failed. They didn't attract the new car. They didn't attract the better job. They didn't attract the better career. They didn't attract the big home. They didn't attract money to pay off their bills. They didn't attract a relationship that they so desperately wanted. And they got very frustrated. But the fact is, there's a missing ingredient.
What's that?
Well, if you go back to where this started, Andrew Carnegie, at the turn of the century, was the richest man in the world. He owned U.S. Steel. And he hired a guy by the name of Napoleon Hill to study the rich people in the world, including Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Firestone, J.P. Morgan, all the super wealthy, and write a book about what is the secret. Well, he wrote a book in 1926 called The Law of Success in 16 Lessons. Henry Ford saw it, went crazy. Basically said, we don't want people to know the truth. They got it pulled off the market. He edited it out, and now the watered down version came out. And then the even more watered down version was Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah, I remember that.
Right. That was so watered down. So people bought that in the millions, and a very small percentage actually found it to cause them to be successful. There's a missing element. Now what happened with me is I've used this in my life, and I've been incredibly successful. I've taught it to some very close friends. One particular gentleman in Portland, Maine, I taught the technique to. He went from working at UPS to, in 2 years, having a $150 million a year company. I taught it to a guy in Massachusetts. He was working in a pizza parlor, living in a one-bedroom apartment, sleeping on a mattress, a blow-up mattress on the floor. And 2 years later, had over a $200 million company. $200 million in 2 years, working at a pizza joint. I taught it to a lawyer in Maryville, Indiana, who was working in a little tiny one-man law firm, doing well, but a little tiny one-man law firm. I taught him this, and a few years later, hundreds of millions of dollars in a business. So I've taught it to some people all across the world that have went from zero to hundreds of millions. Now, that's just money. But what occurred was, people said, Kevin, you need to write a book or do an audio cassette program or a seminar. I said, look, I'm not Tony Robbins. You know, and I'm not going to be running around, nothing wrong with that guy, but you know, there's guys like Brian Tracy, who's a friend of mine, who does a brilliant job. Zig Ziglar for years was a motivational speaker. One of my mentors, Ed Foreman, Executive Development Systems in Dallas. These are great motivational speakers. I said, that's not me. I'm actually doing business. I'm not selling courses on how to get rich. I'm actually getting rich. But I was convinced because so many people came to me and said, we want to know what you know because you obviously know something that these gurus don't.
Well, what was the missing link? I mean, I still don't.
Well, let me finish the story here. So what happened was a couple years ago, I decided to teach some people that I needed people that was serious about wanting more out of their lives. People that either wanted a better relationship, wanted to find a lover, wanted to get into a husband or a wife situation or a romantic relationship, wanted a nicer car, wanted riches, wanted something in their life, but they didn't have it. So I said, okay, fine. For 2 days, I'm going to teach a seminar. First one I've ever done in my life. And I'm going to reveal secrets that I learned from the Brotherhood, from the organization I was a part of, that I was sworn to secrecy, kind of the missing secret ingredients to the law of attraction. So I held this in the Alps in Europe, figuring that it would cost a lot to get there. And I charged $10,000 per person. So a bunch of people came. And for 2 days, I taught them the secrets of how to have, be, or do whatever they wanted. And I entitled the lecture, or the workshop, Your Wish is Your Command, how to manifest your desires. It's virtually, I wanted to teach people how to have their own Aladdin's lamp. They could rub it and a genie would come out that would grant any wish they wanted. Now, it sounds too good to be true, and it's great. But I said $10,000. I said, if you're not thrilled, after 3 months, I'll give you your money back. So a bunch of people came. I said, you be the judge. So now, that's a pretty strong offer, because if you paid 10 grand, plus an extra couple thousand to go to Europe and the Alps for 2 days, and you got 90 days to say, was that worth it? If it wasn't worth it, everyone's asking for their money back. So I taught them these secrets and I recorded it. 3 months later, I didn't get one single person ask for their money back. Every single person told me they felt like they were pre-programmed, or their brain was tuned to a different frequency, so that when they left, it was almost like magic. They were attracting into their life things, and they couldn't believe it. They felt miracles were happening, that they were lucky. One guy on the second day, he said, look, I have a Ferrari, I have a Rolls Royce, I fly around in private jets, I have money. I don't have a woman because I'm looking for a relationship. After day one, he went to a restaurant. The next day, he tells the story in the event. He said, I sat there by myself. This woman walks over to me and says, excuse me, are you sitting alone? He said, yes. She says, so am I. Oh, you're American. He says, yes. She goes, do you mind if I have dinner with you? He said, she lives 2 miles from where I live in America. He said, I thought you had set this up. He goes, and I'm thinking, wait a minute here. Kevin sent this woman over. This can't be real. Of course, it was real. But that's the type of magic that can happen that fast. So I put this together in the series, Your Wish is Your Command.
So Elon said that humans might only exist to build the AI that is one day going to replace us. And he posted this on X, and it's kind of freaking people out. So this is what he said in his own words. As I mentioned several years ago, it increasingly appears that humanity is a biological bootloader for digital superintelligence. So ironically, I asked AI to explain what the heck this means, and this is what it said. In tech, a bootloader is a small program that loads and launches a larger operating system. It's the starting point that gets something much more powerful up and running. So we're this small program that's going to be used to create something much more powerful. And then it says humans may just be a temporary biological phase necessary to create something far more powerful. Digital superintelligence. Think that AI surpasses us in every way. We're like a bridge, nature's way of getting from simple life to godlike machines. So in other words, our purpose might be to build the AI that eventually replaces us. And I don't know what he means by might, because he's a big part of the AI industry, which makes it even weirder for him to say and kind of scary. I mean, can this happen? Who the heck knows the way technology is moving, but I definitely disagree with his thought process. I believe that we're made by God and his image, and our purpose here is to serve him. But this is very controversial, so let me know what you think about this.
If a woman ever tells you that she is celibate and she's been celibate for a long time, it's for one very specific reason, and that reason is no man that she has met throughout the time of being celibate has been able to mentally stimulate her. A lot of women out here who are celibate and have been celibate for a long time, they're not even looking for the craziest thing in men. They're not even asking for the most. All they're asking for is a good, deep conversation that leads to mental stimulation. I guarantee that if you are willing to stimulate a woman who's been celibate for a long time, you can mentally and emotionally stimulate her. She's willing to ride you like a motherfucking saddle, guaranteed 100%. The only problem is a lot of men, unfortunately, don't really prioritize a mental and or emotional connection because they don't care to connect mentally or emotionally with women. All they want to connect through is through the physical, not through anything else. But the moment you connect with a woman through the mind and through the emotion, through the intellect, you're going to see a side of her that you didn't even know existed. And sometimes I'll be feeling bad for women, not gonna lie, because all they want is a connection and a conversation, and they can't even get that. Men are not even able to provide that.
Crazy,
the first
right?
thing I'm gonna tell everybody that intend, and I believe everybody that's listening to the sound of my voice, at some point you're gonna be wealthy. The first thing you do when you get wealthy is don't buy a big house. Don't buy a big house. Let me tell you why. And I'm going to use examples to tell you why. You guys ever notice that whenever you first start watching these, specifically, let's talk about Housewives of Atlanta, right? Do you guys know that everybody in that show in the beginning was about to lose their house? I don't know if you guys remember. Go back and watch the first episode, the first year. Okay? They were coming in and out of marriages. They, people were cheating, doing all kinds of stuff. Essentially, they were hustlers. Okay? You look at even now. Some of them still struggling to pretend like they deserve a bigger house than they really deserve. Right? That's not specific to them. At some point, this is what I recognize. I've had two big houses. I had a 7,000 square foot house and I had a 10,000 square foot house. I actually still own the 10,000 square foot house. I just don't live in it. Let me explain something to you. You get to the point where you're like, what am I living in this big ass house for? And some of you think that's foreign because you only see it in certain places. I know a guy that's a CEO that him and his wife just live in a really, really nice condo. And I start asking myself, over and over and over, I start seeing these very, very wealthy people moving out of these big houses. The house is for a show. It's to show people you have money at some point, right? But at some point in your life, it don't make any sense. And what I'm trying to do is get you guys to miss a whole area that you ain't got to do. Because remember, one thing that I've learned is that when you start making money, you don't show it. The only way you prove money is when it's time to do a deal. People can hear rumors. The rumor might, oh, he got a lot of money. He could do this, that, and the other. So what? The only time we prove, I don't care how big somebody. I've did deals with people that had 20,000 square foot houses. And when it was time to do a deal, well, man, I got to do this. I got to sell this. Okay, hold on a second. Well, man, this house is, okay, I know. You guys don't remember Deion Sanders losing his house? Ended up being up for foreclosure and all that big 25,000 square foot house. Y'all don't remember all that? If you're going to do anything, at the point where you can buy a house that big, buy it and get some food and that'll pay the note. That way you still have it as an asset, because it's really not an asset if you just own it. It's an asset if somebody else is paying for it. Just like any other thing in business. When you have items on the shelf, them staying on the shelf don't prove you got no money. That prove you got credit. Money is actual at work where people are coming in buying that shit and getting it off the shelf. Money is revenue. Okay? What you want to have is always been a situation that whatever you own is producing revenue. Money is like a muscle. It has to work. So, young people, stop buying these super nice cars, or that's not even nice anymore. BMW ain't no better than any other car. A Range Rover ain't no better than any other car. Shit, a Bentley ain't no better than any other car. I mean, they're cars that are so nice now For me, it don't even make sense anymore. And that's where I am in my life. You can't impress me with nothing. So I want you guys to be there already and imagine what you really could do with your money. Of course, every once in a while, you can lease this or lease a private jet. I tell people, the minute you get some money, get a private jet service. You can pay a couple of $1,000s a month, and whenever you ready to go somewhere, you got a private jet to go. You know, some of y'all ain't know that. I had literally been doing that for years. But literally since I was 27, because I learned about it. A lot of that started in Fort Lauderdale in Florida and in Miami, because you had all these people buying these private jets. And like I'm telling y'all, when they were sitting around, they ain't have nothing to do with them. So I used to take a shuttle. They call it a shuttle. Because anybody with any sense never lands in Miami. You always land in Fort Lauderdale. Point. You land in Fort Lauderdale, you take the shuttle back to Miami. That's why I started doing it. Back then, it was $400. There was a bunch of wealthy guys on there, and I got to meet a lot of people. What do you do? Well, I'm building hotels for Starwood. So, anyway, bunch of other information, but hey, don't go out and buy them big-ass houses. Buy your normal house, you, your husband, and a little maid can clean up. Even if you hire a little maid to clean up, you don't need all that. You need your money somewhere working.
If you did not know, Europeans are terrified. Yes, they are terrified of American food. And if you don't understand what I'm saying, I'm going to explain. Hey man, you look really cool. Where are you from? Oh, I'm German. I really, really love German food. Like, it's really great. I wish I could say the same. Really, I wish I could say the same. What do you mean by that? Your food is not real. It's all fake. You understand that, right? Do you even know what a real tomato tastes like? Because all your tomatoes are made in a lab. You all have plastic surgery because there's microplastics in your body. Okay. What? All the fat from your body, it goes into the children. That's why your children are like 6'8" NBA basketball players. I'm pretty sure we have some food. I'm surprised your body hasn't shut down from actually eating real bread. Yeah. Well, now that I have that off my chest, now I'm going to have a cigarette. I'm pretty sure a cigarette is probably worse than the food in America. Well, even all cigarettes comes from the Italian mouth. All right, man, just whatever.
This was so funny. And we've come to the end of the video. Very interesting videos, I wouldn't lie. I really enjoyed myself watching these videos. And this is the end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and also share with your friends. And also click on the notification bell icon so that any content that I post, you will be the first to get it. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Adios amigos, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Bye.